This week on the Pro Wrestling Podcast, Malakai Black Not Released from AEW, and Seth Rollins opens up about never getting the chance to be the top guy. Rob Van Dam on CM Punk and the recent media scrum debacle, and Chris Jericho on meeting Tony Khan and signing with AEW. I'm your host, Seth Grimes, and this is the Pro Wrestling Podcast. What the fuck is up, everybody? Welcome in to the Pro Wrestling Podcast. I am your boy, Seth Grimes, back with another week of pro wrestling podcasts and shoot interviews. Was a slow week, was not a big week. As a matter of fact, I would say this is absolutely the worst week in the entire history. I've been doing this show, 50 some odd episodes, that the podcast has been. There just hasn't been shit out on the pro wrestling podcast scene this week. It wasn't shit in the way of pro wrestling interviews. It was just a slow week. But I was able to gather all kinds of great little tidbits for you guys. I was still able to scrounge together a show for you guys that I think you will enjoy greatly. Lots of fun topics. Starting with our first one here. Seth Rollins bears his soul on Ariel Helwani meets this week. This was easily the best interview that I've ever seen from Seth Rollins. And Ariel Helwani is a champ. Everything that he does is fantastic. They got into a wide variety of different things that it was, Seth was very personable. He opened up a lot. He talked about the fan that jumped the railing and attacked him. They got into what his relationship's like now with the guys from the Shield, both Roman and Mox. And it was in this clip right here where Seth kind of bared his soul a little bit, if you will, and talked about one of his biggest fears is that if he's just not good enough to be better than Roman Reigns, to be the top guy. Check out this clip.
Why in the world does Seth Rollins have a chip on his shoulder?
I just feel like I've never gotten my just due. There's always I've never been the guy, I've never been the one on the marquee at WrestleMania. That always just eats at me. It eats at me so much. And so I don't know where that competitive spark comes from, but it drives me insane. And the thing is, if I was that guy, I don't know if it would just go away. I always would find some way to put the chip there. And the biggest thing is maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm not as good as I think I am. Maybe there are people out there that draw more money, perform better in the ring, sell more merch, et cetera, than me, and I've got this inflated idea of myself, and that's the fear, right? Is that I'm just dead wrong, and so maybe that's the truth, and maybe that's just how it is. But I can't operate at optimum levels accepting that. So no, I've never ever felt like in my time in WWE that the company was like, yep, he's our guy, put his face on everything.
Do you feel like you're close to that point, close to getting to that point?
I don't know, man. I wonder often if because I live in the Roman era, that's just never going to happen.
Again, I got to put over this whole interview. Ariel Helwani, mark my words, I've said this before, but I'm going to say it again. You've heard it here first. Ariel Helwani is going to be like our generation's Walter Cronkite. He's going to be the guy that's going to be interviewing all the presidents. He's going to be the guy interviewing the world leaders. He's going to be the guy interviewing the biggest celebrities and all the mega stars. He's going to get all the biggest interviews for the next 50 fucking years. This guy is a beast. He's going to grow out of the sports world. He's going to be the guy. There's nobody on the planet right now that does a more fascinating interview that comes off so effortlessly. It's just a conversation, but he's so good at and people trust him and people are comfortable with him, except for like a guy like Dana White. If you've ever seen Dana White rant about Ariel, it's hilarious. But he's so personable that people just open up to him and he gets just fantastic interviews. So, just gonna sit here and suck his dick for a little while, so bear with me while I do that. And then Seth Rollins, this motherfucker, I've said this on the pod here too, is that Rollins is not one of my favorite guys at all. To me, he's overrated. I don't quite, I respect him. I understand that he is a great worker. I can clearly see that. I have eyes. But his character it's just like sandpaper to me. And not just the current character, that's what he's supposed to do. That's why he dresses ridiculous. No, I mean, even in The Shield, even in NXT. And it's funny because I've heard people compare my voice to Seth Rollins' voice, and with the nasal, like this. But Rollins' voice is just abrasive to me at times, which is fine. I get it. Trust me, I get it. But I can still say it's not for me. And I don't know, he looks like a greaseball and a scumbag. I know he's not. He's a family man and everything, but he looks like a greaseball and a scumbag. I don't know. He doesn't work for me. So I've never been the biggest fan of Seth, but my God, in this interview, did he just open up and just bare his soul right from the very beginning. It didn't take pulling teeth or anything. Ariel already has the rapport with Seth from previous interviews, at least one previous interview, I believe. But they just get right into it and they dive deep and they cut deep. And Rollins doesn't hold back, when he came out and he said that he doesn't feel like he's good enough, that's his biggest fear. That hit me hard in the gut. Because the fact of the matter is that Seth Rollins is not going to ever be the top guy under Roman Reigns. This is the Roman Reigns era, and that made me feel bad for Seth. That hurt my heart a little bit. I don't know about you guys. That broke my heart a little. You poor fucker. Because he knows it. In his heart of hearts, he knows it. And that's why that's his biggest fear. And that's why he said, I don't know, man. I don't think, as long as Roman's around, I'm not going to be that guy. He compared himself to Randy Savage under Hogan or fucking Edge under Cena. You're never going to be the guy. You're going to be B. You know what I mean? You're going to headline the B-Town shows or be main eventing with a guy, but you're never going to be, top guy. Which leads me to something I just want to throw out there real quick before I wrap up this segment. Just a theory of mine, but looking in the hourglass, do we see a possible Seth Rollins to AEW confirmed? Tyler Black to AEW confirmed? Do we have that in our future? Because look, he's friends with Mox. Tyler Black to AEW confirmed in the future, right? He's friends with Mox. Hear me out, fuckers. He's friends with Mox, close friends, right? Personal friends. He's got, I'm sure, other friends that are there too. And quite frankly, they could use him in that CM Punk spot. If they do decide to part ways with CM Punk, they should. If they can get Seth, they should. Otherwise, I think you try to make it work with Punk. But imagine Seth Rollins comes in with, the CM Punk spot as the top babyface to lead that fucking company. he can be the face of AEW. He can have that spotlight. Dude's already main evented WrestleMania. He's already walked out of the main event of WrestleMania with the World Championship. He's done it all in WWE. Look at like a Bryan Danielson. Once you've done it all in WWE, and Chris Jericho had me thinking about this a whole different way because, I'd always kind of thought about it like, you don't want to step down, right? Like you want to like go out on the best of the best of the best of the best. And clearly WWE is the top company in the whole world. But so like I was always like, well, AEW would be a step down. Why would you leave WWE? But if you've already done everything, like a Bryan Danielson, and Chris Jericho had said it in one of his many podcasts where he said, my legacy is already set in WWE. I don't know if he quite said that he's already a Hall of Famer, but he's already a Hall of Famer in the WWE. His legacy is set. That'll never be taken away from him. He beat The Rock and Stone Cold in the same night for the world titles. He's main evented WrestleMania, top spot, even though Rock and Hogan that night should have been. Jericho and Triple H were the main event that night. Chris Jericho has done it all. Done it all. So what else hasn't he done? Built a fucking company from the ground up. And sure, it's the B company. But it's the B company that he started with a fuck you to the other guys because they bumped him down the card and they didn't see him where he thought he should be seen. And now look at him. He is the Ring of Jericho champion. Look, we got off on a tangent here. All to say that, what's to say that AEW doesn't steal Seth Rollins away from the WWE? He's already done it all, so it's not, all he needs to do is just do it all more in the WWE. He could be the top guy, but he's gonna have to wait till Roman's done. And even then he's competing with Cody because Cody's hot on his heels. And guess who got Cody his fucking hot start? Seth Rollins. Rollins also talked about that in this interview too. Taking it for the team like a fucking champ right in the ass. Fucking 3 straight losses for Cody Rhodes because he knew the better for the business was to push Cody Rhodes, give him a hot start. So, goddamn, if he hops over to AEW, man, he's already got friends there, good friends there that can get him in. Tony will pay him the fucking money, especially if Punk's gone. There's a big wide open spot for that kind of talent. And he could be the top guy and have a whole nother run and contribute to the continued success with a fucking good smiley face on it instead of a frowny face like the Punk one ended, with Seth Rollins leading the charge over there. That's just my 2 cents, though. I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you guys think that he would be a good fit in AEW? Does it sound like him saying that he feels a bit of a chip on his shoulder that he will never be the top guy of a company because of fucking Roman Reigns? So do you think he'll take that opportunity to jump ship? And just to wrap things up here, go check out that interview. It's the best interview you'll hear all week. It was a week for podcasts. Week. It was a week. It was a week for podcast, but this one was a shining star. Ariel Helwani, the fucking king. Seth Rollins, much more respect to you, sir, than I had before going into it. And I'm going to catch you in the next clip. Malakai Black Not Released from AEW. This, contrary to the story that I dropped last week, as well as everybody else and their mom in the pro wrestling media, that Malakai Black was granted his release from AEW. He was citing unhappiness with his position within the company as well as mental health issues. And, it was a big deal. He released this whole statement on, I believe, his Instagram, perhaps, a written out statement where he basically just, addressed everything and was upset that rumors were leaking out about his mental health. And that, that was a private conversation that he had with AEW. And yada, 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 yada. But now this week, all of a sudden, he's not released. And he's come out and basically contradicted everything that he had previously said in his previous statement with another Instagram post, this time a video, a live stream. Check out this clip and we'll catch you on the backside.
I mean, some people can't seem to just shut the fuck up and create things that are not there, so I have to go out here again and, well, have a conversation with you guys here. All right, so, guys, how many times do I have to tell people to not trust people that are not in this business? If you can't even get the years of my contract right, which is a very minuscule detail, then how are you expecting, or how are people expecting that these guys know very intimate and private detailing in regards to my private business? My contract's not 5 years. My contract's never been 5 years. Like, again, this is all bullshit. It's all lies. Then it is followed by a bunch of multiple things in regards to my merits and all stuff. But it even says that my stuff about my conditional release, that it's false. So how are you guys still thinking, why are people still writing that I've gotten my release? Guys, I don't know how like, why do you trust these people to tell you the truth? Because it's not true. I have to deal with this kind of stupid bullshit from people who are not in the business, pretending that they are in the business with all their sources. And you know, the worst thing about it is, for the past 3 days, nothing but weird, hateful comments. And today, even 2 death threats. Death threats? Luckily, and that's what this whole thing was about, I've been giving time off by Tony to take care of a bunch of stuff. All this stuff has been cleared up like weeks ago.
So Malakai Black did ask for his release. It just wasn't granted. Apparently Tony Khan has come out and according to Dave Meltzer, no releases are going to be granted. Check out this clip of Uncle Dave.
Malakai Black, after doing a statement last week talking about how he had asked for his release, he said that in his statement, is now saying that he has not been released. He's taking time off, and he could be back within weeks, he says.
Yeah. Nobody's getting released. That's the doctrine. Tony Khan made that very clear, I guess, in the last couple days. And so now it's just, he's not being released. Buddy Matthews isn't being released. Now they may be back sooner than before, whatever. But that's the situation. I think they were both wanting, you know what the situation is. They were wanting to go and, trying to get a way out, it's what we talked about last night. And that was the decision that was made.
Yeah, nobody's getting a release. We're not granting any of you fuckers your release. Not Malakai Black, not Buddy Matthews. I almost said Buddy Murphy still. Not Miro, not El Idolo. All of these people were rumored to have been asking for their release from AEW, and a lot of people seem to speculate that it's because all of them have significant others over in the WWE, on the WWE side of things. Not just the relationship with Papa H that, everybody gets along with Papa H. Everybody, all his kids from NXT want to go back to Triple H. That's the going opinion of the internet anyway. And that they want to go back because they have significant others there. Buddy Matthews is with Rhea Ripley, Andrade with Charlotte, of course, and then fucking Malakai with Zelina Vega. There's probably a lot more to it as well. Maybe they thought they were going to all get the big main event push. I covered that last week with Malakai Black, that I don't know what professional promises weren't being, what Tony Khan would have promised Malakai Black that he didn't come through with for him. I thought Malakai Black had a decent run. He could have had a better run. I would have booked him differently, but I wouldn't say that he was wasted or misused entirely or poorly used or anything. He could have spent more time at the top of the card, but I mean, he gets his faction with his buddies and all of that. I don't disagree with Tony Khan not wanting to grant releases because, I've always been of the impression that if a guy wants to go, they're not happy there, they're not going to be good for the locker room, so just let them fucking go. And I contradict myself on this because on one hand, I'd like to, if I was Tony Khan, I'd like to hold a meeting and be like, all right, anybody that wants their release can come stop by my office after this meeting and I will fucking sign a release for you and you can go on your way, because we need people here that want to be part of the team, not people that are going to complain and bitch to the dirt sheets and cry on Twitter and Instagram about their life. This got so bad in AEW. And that are going to want to go play for the other team. You clearly don't want to be here. But at the same time, the other side of the argument is that once you open that floodgate, you got to let everybody go that wants to go. And who knows who else is itching to leave the company and what kind of impact that can have when they inevitably jump ship over to the WWE. So I get where Tony Khan's coming from. I don't know 100% that I would follow the same suit. I think I'd be more inclined to just let people walk. You don't need them. Especially like a Buddy Matthews. Everybody's just, oh, Buddy Matthews. Meh. I don't see anything in him at all. I am not a fan. I think he's generic. I understand he's a good worker. I get that. I see that clearly with my eyes. I get he can work in the ring. He's impressive. He's got a great physique. But he's also boring as all shit, like watching paint dry. It's like fucking MJF's promo, where these people are boring as fuck. Like, yeah, you can wrestle, but can you entertain? Do people want to watch you? And you don't need that kind of poison in the locker room when they're not really doing anything for the roster anyway. Same with Andrade El Idolo. Andrade, I liked when he was in NXT. I thought he had some great main event matches. Thought he had a good little run as the champion over there. And I saw a lot of potential in him. And I just have not seen shit since. I didn't see shit from him on the main roster at WWE. And of course, we could have blamed Vince McMahon for that. Oh, he just doesn't know how to use them. He's misusing the talent. Well, he's not living up to his full potential. But then hopping on over to AEW, he hasn't done shit over there either. And you could say that he hasn't been positioned properly or used properly or blah, 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 blah. You could push him to the main event if you like. Another guy that can perform well in the ring, but he's like watching paint dry. There's nothing entertaining about Andrade El Idolo. The fucking guy, I like his look. I like his suits and shit. And I like when he comes out in the black skull mask. But he's boring. What does he do? He shows up backstage and barely speaks English and fucking just acts like a businessman, but like, I don't know. The whole thing's dumb. Clearly misused. I'm not saying he was used properly. I'm just saying he has done nothing with any of the time that he has been given. Now, you can say all you want that, oh, he's not being used right, or, oh, he's just, not giving his full because he's salty with his spot. That's bullshit, too. The dude has had TV time, the dude has had main event matches, and the dude has had other matches. He's been on pay-per-views. What has he done to be like, oh my God, I have to watch Andrade El Idolo? Nothing. Let him go. Problem is, like I said, once you let a couple people go, you got to let everybody go. You don't want to let go of Malakai Black. So if you let Bloody Murphy walk and Andrade walk, you got to let Malakai Black walk too. And you might need to let Miro walk. And you might need to let everybody else walk too that might want to sneak out, that maybe hasn't said anything, or we just haven't heard about it yet. Because there are a lot of people that were wanting to go back to WWE after Triple H took back over. Apparently, there was a whole story. There's a story within the story here that I saw this on the internet, that fucking Bobby Fish, of all people, was kind of tagged as a recruiter for Triple H to try to pull in a lot of those other guys, especially the rest of the Undisputed Era, but anybody else he could too, to come back to WWE from AEW. And, we all heard the contract tampering rumor as well. Essentially Triple H, when he took back over, had feelers sent out to every single person he wanted to bring back from AEW. Regardless of he knew better. He knew contract tampering was a thing. He didn't care. He didn't give a shit. He was willing to take that risk, take the lawsuit on the chin to put those feelers out and let those people know that they have a home to come back to if they want to. And that's not only going to just be contract tampering and try to pull those people, but that's going to sow the seeds of dissension within the AEW locker room. Because now it's going to start to get these people thinking, talking to their other people, because wrestlers talk like fucking like a women's knitting circle. You know what I mean? And they're going to chat with each other, and they're going to try to talk other people into coming with them. And they're going to, all these little seeds of dissension are going to start to be sown. And then every time the Tony Khan and Buddy Matthews get into a tiff backstage or something, where Buddy Matthews, I want to do this. And Tony Khan's like, yeah, I'm not feeling that. Buddy Matthews is going to think that much more. Oh, well, if I went to Papa H, blah, 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 blah. It's just a big mess. Now, I think Malakai Black is kind of off as a bit of a bitch here. You can hate me for that all you want, you know what I mean? Come at me, bro, in the comments if you're a big Malakai Black fan, but he's been doing nothing but going online, crying like a little bitch. First his post, and now this video. The dirt sheets are talking about my business. They don't know my business. He said, I don't got a 5-year contract. You can't even get the contract right. Those words came out of Tony Khan's mouth himself. We covered it here on the show after he said it. He's on Busted Open Radio. So I got Adam Cole and Malakai Black both to 5-year contracts. They both almost got 5 years left. So Malakai Black's saying the dirt sheets got it wrong. I mean, you got to take the word of the boss, right? When the boss, the guy that signs your contract, comes out and says this is what his contract is for, I'm going to take his word over fucking Malakai Black's even, To criticize the dirt sheets, that's their job. That's what they're there for, is to get the dirt. That's why they're the dirt sheets. They are insider news. That's just what they do. You can criticize them and not like them, but, I mean, at the end of the day, that's their fucking job. That's what they're going to do. And, Sean Ross Sapp took a lot of this on the chin over at Fightful. This dude, it makes a point to avoid people's mental health problems. He doesn't report on anything that's going to be drama or going to be, affect anybody negatively. Any of that personal life stuff, he's not going to report on that. But he got dragged into this mess and hated on for all this too. I just think Malakai Black is in a bad spot right now, personally, clearly. That's why he's saying he needed to take the time off. And I feel like that's affecting his attitude. I think he's just got a bad attitude. And it happens to the best of us. It's happened to me before. I've worked places where I just get pissy with things, with life, with work, with life in general. But then the things at work are amplified because you're already pissy and crabby about everything else. And it just rolls into this big old snowball of meh and grumpiness and dissatisfaction and all of that. So I think that's where Malakai Black is at. I hope he gets better. He's a great talent. I'd love to see him, recuperate and get back on his feet and be able to go out and deliver some amazing moments, as a character. But he's going to be delivering them in AEW because he ain't going nowhere. Neither are any of these other guys. And you know what? The grass is not always greener on the other side. I don't know. Does a guy like Buddy fucking Matthews honestly think in his heart of hearts that he's going to leave AEW and just go get a fucking year-long Intercontinental title run on the main events over on fucking Monday Night Raw? He's going to be in the same spot he's in now. If he can come over with Malakai, he might get paired up with Malakai again and be doing the same fucking shit. Also, do you think Malakai Black's just going to get shot right to the top? Aleister Black is going to main event WrestleMania and fucking take the title from Roman Reigns if he went to WWE? No. they would be upper mid card exactly like they are in AEW right now. I don't know what kind of promises or what he's expecting to have happen. Same with El Idolo. He's not going to get a higher spot in WWE than he is in AEW. All he's going to do is be back with Papa H and be in the same locker room as his wife, and he's still going to go out and have good matches and have a shitty, boring, lame personality. And that's what I think about this whole fucking mess. All these guys are causing drama. It would be good to just get rid of all of them, but I just don't think AEW is in a position right now where that's a good look for them. They need to rebuild. They need to reinvigorate their brand. You know what I mean? They need to build that solidarity. And again, that could be looked at as a reason to get rid of these people and let them go, because you want a rock solid locker room. You don't want a locker room full of people bitching and complaining and wanting to be other places. But at the same time, you know, if 2, 3, 4 guys end up leaving AEW to go to WWE, that's a problem. That's going to look really bad for AEW as well. At least till they get their TV deal. Once they've signed their TV deal, they get their re-up and they get more money, which they will. They will inevitably get more money than they're making now with a new contract with Warner Media. Then at that point, start letting some of these fucks go, right? You'll still have them all under contract at that point. At that point, call them in the office and say, all right, guys, you guys can go now. Because now you're tied into a multi-year contract for a bigger money. Now you don't need to worry about the look of your company so much. You know, that look of, oh, everybody wants to leave AEW. You know, what's up with that? You know, for the network trying to re-sign them, that could look bad. But, you know, AEW is in a position where they got all these talents. They can go to the network and say, look at all the great talent we have. Get that re-up and then say, all right, peace, guys. Have a good one. Don't need you around anymore. That's just my 2 cents on it. Everybody's going to have their own opinion. And look, none of this is a knock on the mental health part of it. You know, I fully stand by him taking time off for mental health. And it appears Tony Khan has given him that. Take all the time you need to work on your shit. Just when you come back to wrestling, you're coming back here. What do you guys think? Let me know down in the comments if you're watching on YouTube. If you are listening to the podcast, shoot me an email, SethGrimesXIII@gmail.com. Let's talk about it. I don't plug that enough. So yeah, holler at me. Rob Van Dam was on Cafe de Rene Dupree's podcast of some sort, where he was talking about the CM Punk situation, the big media scrum debacle that we all are sick and tired of talking about, quite frankly. But hey, Rob Van Dam has a take on it, and Rob Van Dam doesn't speak out on the current stuff too much, so it is absolutely worth exploring. In this interview, Rob Van Dam gave his 2 cents on what he thinks of not only the CM Punk media scrum situation that unfolded, but also just CM Punk in general. Check out this clip.
What's your thoughts on the CM Punk stuff? What's been happening with the press conference and him leaving? I'm sure you got an opinion on it.
I do. It's interesting. They have a lot of people talking. It's kind of funny to hear people on the outside act like the timer has gone off, you know, and AEW is gonna explode. I'm into it to see, you know, if to see the full circle, like what happens from this energy. Being the Zen master that I am, let me point out, because a lot of people might not notice, but pro wrestling is full of like the most by population, probably the most amount of ridiculously extreme egos that you'll ever see jammed together. But I think there's a good chance that CM Punk, just, you know, from feeling his energy, probably has as big of an ego as anybody that I've interacted with in the business.
So first of all, I just want to say fuck Rene Dupree, right? I don't know why he has a pro wrestling podcast. He's clearly bitter. He clearly hates the business. I definitely see why. I mean, he was picked on in the locker room and the business was not kind to Rene Dupree. But I hate these podcasts where they just come on and they shit on everything and they're like, he was what? La Resistance? La Resistance. Yeah, there's just no need to do a pro wrestling podcast when you're going to come on and just kind of take a big shit on it. And that's what I see Rene do periodically. I don't watch him regularly. But if he has a good guest on, like say a Rob Van Dam, I'm going to pop in and I'm going to see what it's all about. But he just has a negative attitude towards the business. As far as Rob Van Dam, I love me some Rob Van Dam. I'll watch his shit all day long. He always has really good insight, and this was fascinating to hear. He's right, everybody's on the doom and gloom tip about AEW. Oh, this is going to be the end of them, blah, 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 blah. Like he said with TNA, everybody was predicting the end of TNA for years and years and years, and rightfully so. I mean, did you see the product under Dixie Carter? But hey, they're still around under Impact. So sometimes these things die hard, right? So I think, he kind of nailed it spot on there that AEW is going to be fine. They're going to come back from this. They're going to recover. Granted, it's going to be a tough one. They got to crawl out of this hole. That whole media scrum was a giant mess. It was a bad look for the company. It was bad just all around. It gave them a bad image. It gave everybody a bad taste in their mouth. And that's something that AEW is going to have to climb back from, rebuild, and recover from. But no, they're not going to get buried. They're not going to go under. They're not going to fail. It's not going to be a flop. They're not done now just because CM Punk went off on a rant. As far as the egos thing, I mean, he nailed it on the head there too. Wrestling is full of giant egos. And that's good to a certain extent. You need that in wrestling because you can't reach the highest of high levels if you don't have a fucking ego about yourself. You have to think that you're the shit to a certain extent to be anything in any kind of entertainment or media at all. To a certain extent, you got to have an ego. You got to think that you have something that people want to see, or that, you have a particular skill that, you know what I mean? Like, the business is filled with people with giant egos. And getting them all stuffed in the same locker room and trying to force them all to work together, inevitably people are going to butt heads. And sometimes it might even come to blows. That shit's going to happen with testosterone-filled, big fucking beefy tough guys, with their fucking egos. And CM Punk has proven himself to have one of the biggest. And he's always had a giant ego. But it's never really been, his problems with WWE, I always kind of contributed to WWE. WWE is the problem. But now it's kind of becoming clear that the problems that CM Punk keeps having in the wrestling business are because CM Punk is a little bit too big for his britches, a little bit too big of ego. He's not bigger than the wrestling business itself, and I think sometimes he tries to come off like that or thinks that he is. Again, you need that kind of attitude to make it to the tippity top of the pro wrestling business. But you also need to kind of have respect for your peers, and you need to realize that this is a machine that works as a group to a certain extent, that you can't just go out there and just think that you're the greatest thing ever and everything needs to revolve around you, because it's just not going to fly that way. And it was a huge detriment to AEW. That shit almost buried AEW. But like Rob Van Dam said, they're going to come back from this. It's not going to be the end of AEW. And clearly it's not, because their ratings have shot up since this whole thing. I speculated last week that perhaps even the fans are happier without the Young Bucks, Kenny Omega and CM Punk, and just want a wrestling product that doesn't have the children doing their high spots, or the the old grumpy guy that's an egomaniac. A lot of people hate Punk for all that shit, and rightfully so. I guess. We'll see how it all plays out. We'll see where they land. I think AEW is in good shape without them currently. And it's always fun to hear what other people have to say about it, especially a guy like Rob Van Dam. He's a legend, and he's going to have a unique take on the situation. So I recommend at least watching the clip. I've linked it in the description down below. But other than that, I would avoid Rene Dupree's podcast. La Resistance. Should Andy Kaufman be inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame? This was the topic of discussion on Talk is Jericho with Evan and Jason from the Dark Side of the Ring series. They got a new one, Tales from the Territories. This is produced by The Rock's production company, $7. So The Rock is directly involved with this project. Apparently he does some voiceover work from it, and he was also responsible for getting them specific interviews from guys that work for WWE, and maybe even possible WWE footage stuff that Evan and Jason were not able to get for the Dark Side of the Ring series. So big help from The Rock, coming in clutch, right? But it was in this particular clip they were talking about the different territories. Essentially, the show's going to be, each episode's going to focus on a different territory and all the best, wildest stories from the territory. And I guess it's going to be in like a round table format. So, all the, talking heads that are still alive or, in good graces with people or whatever are going to be sitting around talking about the good old days, of their territory. And they're talking about the Memphis territory. And because the story of Andy Kaufman coming into Memphis to work with Jerry Lawler was such a big fucking thing, and they ended up talking about it so much that they ended up deciding to just take that and make it to its own separate episode. So they're still going to do a Memphis episode, but then they're going to do an Andy Kaufman episode. And so they were on the Talk is Jericho podcast this week to promote the show and kind of talk about it, and that's where all this is coming from. And the discussion popped up as to whether or not Andy Kaufman deserves to be in the WWE Hall of Fame. And I'm curious what you guys think, but check out this clip while you think about it.
It's unbelievable how deep into this Andy Kaufman was and went. And just the whole thing of just how real they kept it, like even the balls for Jerry to go on national TV on the Letterman show and slap Kaufman.
I find too what's so fascinating is often like outsiders that step into the wrestling world, like you often hear stories where they don't respect it, and you could tell Andy respected the business so much, and that just hearing the wrestlers now talk about it, it's like they talk about him like he's like one of the boys, and they have so much respect for him. I find that so cool to see.
It's just to me, it just feels like probably the quintessential territory angle. And I'm also glad they said that Andy should be in the WWE Hall of Fame at the end of the show, and I totally agree. I think that just even though he never and even though he never worked in WWE, it's just the fact that that just forecasted where sports entertainment would go, especially mixing in celebrity with wrestling and doing it so well.
Bro, Andy Kaufman has to be in the WWE Hall of Fame. Jericho said it best, that Kaufman and Cyndi Lauper are like the two glaring omissions from the celebrity wing of the Hall of Fame, right? Andy Kaufman was one of the most influential and important celebrity wrestlers in the entire history of professional wrestling. When he came in, think about this. Professional wrestling, this was a territory. This was in Memphis. This wasn't WWE, wasn't WCW, NWA, it wasn't AWA. This was the Memphis territory. And Jerry the King Lawler gets into it with a national actor. by the name of Andy Kaufman. He was a comedian. He's on a sitcom. He does a lot of stand-up at the time. And he had a reputation for playing different characters and really like sticking to kayfabe, brother, basically, right? Like he would not break character on stage. And he also had a reputation for being kind of a heel, being a dick face. He would intentionally poke the bear, be irritating, be obnoxious, rub you the wrong way. It was part of his shtick, it was part of his charm, and it was all inspired by professional wrestling because he grew up a professional wrestling fan. Another one of those great celebrities that just got hit by the wrestling bug, right? We all do. All of us that are wrestling fans, any of you guys are watching my ugly ass face, you're sure as fuck a wrestling fan, right? So Andy Kaufman was a wrestling fan growing up. And then when he started doing the intergender wrestling shit, that was groundbreaking at the time. And he would humiliate these women and he would beat them and he would mock them and he would laugh in their face and he would tell them to go do dishes and shit, like cook dinner. Like it was so great. Everything he did, he had a championship belt made up, intergender wrestling champion. And then he ended up finding his way to Memphis because Lawler was always on the lookout for gimmicks, right? He always had Memphis was a hotbed for like random shit. What kind of nonsense can we bring in to pop the territory this month, you know? And Jerry Lawler found out that Kaufman was a wrestling fan and brought him on in. And this angle was brilliant. Nobody knew it was real. They went on the fucking, I don't know if it was the Late Show. It was the Tonight Show, right? Not the Late Show. Letterman was the Tonight Show. They went on Letterman. And again, think about this. A territory. So we have a Hollywood actor, a famous, national famous celebrity in a territory where WWE was certainly going on at the time, in a fucking territory. Then they go on to the Letterman show, on David fucking Letterman. And Jerry Lawler has the nerve to fucking slaps Andy Kaufman right in the face. On live TV. It might have been taped, but on fucking TV. And Letterman wasn't clued in on it. Kayfabe, brother, all the way. It was fantastic. It was one of the greatest pieces of business in professional wrestling history. This whole angle with Lawler and Kaufman was one of the greatest angles in professional wrestling history. Not just Memphis history, but it was certainly the best angle in Memphis history. But it's the best angle in one of the best, not the best, but certainly one of the best angles in professional wrestling history. And it was fucking the brilliance of Andy Kaufman. And he sold it. I'm going to sue you, Lawler. I'm going to sue you for all you're worth. Oh my God. He became more obnoxious because he was assaulted. I was hit. I was attacked unprovoked. We take this shit for granted in wrestling nowadays, right? Somebody comes out and you're like, you're such a heel. But when Andy was doing it, people were like, fuck, this guy's going to sue Jerry Lawler. He's going to take down the whole company. You know what I mean? And then, then they have a match. Then whatever, they do ends up leading and it builds to them having a match. And Lawler pile drives fucking Kaufman and he's got the neck brace on forever. And apparently they said in this podcast that Andy Kaufman's parents were still mad, like when he died at the funeral. They at the funeral they were mad at Jerry the King Lawler for pile driving their son. He didn't even clue his parents in. Give this guy a fucking Hall of Fame induction, right? For sure. Bring this guy into the WWE family. Bring him into the fold. Yes, he's passed away, but he's got family. Give them that fucking, the payday to the family and keep Andy Kaufman's name iconic. Keep it in the Celebrity Hall of Fame. Give it its proper respects. Give it its attention. Give it another run, brother. And, he absolutely deserves it, especially when you got like a Drew Carey and stuff like that. They could do, like him and Cyndi Lauper, man. Get those two in the Hall of Fame. But absolutely, Andy Kaufman, probably the greatest celebrity involvement in the history of pro wrestling. Chris Jericho made his AEW unrestricted debut this week, talking all about his AEW run. And in this particular clip right here, Chris Jericho gets into how he met Tony Khan and what that was like in his first meeting and what led to him signing with AEW. Check out this clip.
So my mindset was never to work anywhere else, and Fozzy was taken off, Judas has just started, so I was out of the business for a while, just working. I think I did 6 matches in New Japan over 2 years, whatever it was. And then my manager's like, there's this guy, Tony Khan, and I'm like, come on, dude, whatever. So we happened to have a Fozzy show in Jacksonville. So Barry Bloom, my manager, organized a lunch between me and Tony Khan. I remember and I remember talking to him, and the one thing I could vividly recall was like, he won't look at me. He's looking away, and he's talking away. And then I realized, like, he's nervous. He's nervous to be here right now.
You're kind of a big deal.
Well, yeah, you are. Thank you. But what I didn't realize at the time is that to Tony, he was a huge fan of mine. So it was a big deal for him to meet me, and it was so we spoke, and he had some ideas, and I was like, we're not going to have writers. I'm going to be the booker. And I was like, who's going to be the booker? I'm going to be the booker. I'm like, really? But this guy is really confident. And then when Tony finally started putting pen to paper and coming back with it, he gave me one offer. I said, yeah. He gave me another one. I called Vince, and Vince through his intermediaries said, take the deal. And I was like, all right. And I'm 1,000% there, So that's when it all came to be. And I was like, we are going to freaking either change this business or die trying.
What Chris Jericho's doing for AEW makes him an absolute fucking legend, man. He did carry AEW on his back when it first started. Think about that. It had Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks, and they were known in the internet wrestling community, because they had wrestled in New Japan as part of the Bullet Club, and they were in Ring of Honor. So to those audiences, they were well known in the pro wrestling guerrilla and that shit. But that's really like the diehard markiest of mark wrestling fans that go to that next level of wrestling. You know what I mean? Most wrestling fans, if it's not on TV, if it's not, doesn't have celebrity involvement where they're constantly hearing about it in the mainstream, then it's out of mind. You need to see it all the time, and then you're like, yeah, those are the wrestling companies. If it's not on there, it doesn't exist. It's the diehards that go searching for shit out on the internet and go seeking deeper, diving. And you don't gotta dig hard to find the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega, but you do. They were not nationally known TV celebrities. Chris Jericho was. He was the only one. Cody Rhodes was too, but he wasn't Cody Rhodes. He wasn't the American Nightmare. He was Stardust. So again, it wasn't, you can't build a company off the back of Stardust. He had to prove himself. And again, he was out there doing it on the indies. He was the American Nightmare there, but you had to dig to that deeper level to find it. So Chris Jericho himself had a giant responsibility, and it took a lot of balls. I had mentioned in an earlier segment that Chris Jericho, he made the decision to leave WWE knowing his legacy was set there. That's untouchable, he's already a Hall of Famer there. Nobody can take that away from him. So, but if he can go build a wrestling company, not just go work, this isn't like retired guy works for TNA, like everybody did the retirement lap in TNA, back in the mid 2000s there, or the 2010s, or what do you call that? 10, doesn't matter. That's not what this was. Jericho came in as a fucking top guy. And he still is a goddamn top guy. He's the Ring of Jericho champion, for Christ's sakes. But no, he literally just main evented a live TV television show. So in a world championship match, even though it is Ring of Honor. So goddamn, right? Like, it's undeniable in the work that he's put in for AEW. He didn't just go there to be the top star. He has taken this personally. He's built these bonds and these relationships and friendships with all of these guys. Like, he is legit close buddies with Santana and Ortiz and Sammy Guevara from doing the Inner Circle gimmick. I don't know how close he is with the new guys from the Jericho Appreciation Society, but look at him taking all of these younger guys under his wing. Like, you don't think guys like 2.0 and fucking Daniel Garcia and Sammy Guevara and fucking Proud and Powerful, all these guys can't learn something under the wing of Chris Jericho? And yeah, there's the fucking Jim Cornette marks out there that are going to be like, yeah, they ain't going to learn nothing good from Chris Jericho. Chris Jericho is a fucking goat, so fuck off. You know what I mean? Like, he really is. Like, his career is undeniable. No matter what you or, Jim Cornette says about that. And, he has gone out of his way to help out all the younger talent. He had a great feud with fucking Orange Cassidy. He brought Orange Cassidy's star power to the next level. He was already like becoming a star. But like working a main event feud with Chris Jericho and just even the Mimosa Mayhem nonsense, it was still a spectacle and it still captured people's attentions. And they're like, well, I got to see what this weirdo match is about. And boom, I mean, Jericho has done nothing, and even to this day where he's going out there and he's going in the locker room and taking on a locker room leader role. He has mentioned in another interview that Tony Khan offered him at the start an EVP role like the other guys, and he turned it down. He didn't want that role, but he was going to take it like ceremoniously. And from all accounts, everything that you've heard, Chris Jericho does. He absolutely does take that role seriously as a locker room leader. And, he's always working with the younger talent. So props to him. And, what more can be said? I mean, even whether you love him or hate him, you can't deny the career he's had. You can't deny that he's still doing it at a very high level. And you can't deny that he basically carried AEW to their fucking big TV contract and made the company a safe place for other big names to come and plant their flags. So now Chris Jericho could leave. He could retire. He could be done with it all, and AEW will flourish without him. His job is done in AEW, but yet he continues. And that's important to him as part of his legacy. He built a Hall of Fame career, main evented WrestleMania, did all of those things. There's nothing left for him to do. Worked with all the top guys, Hulk Hogan, Shawn Michaels, Triple H, Undertaker, you name them, Rock, Stone Cold. He's worked with everybody in WWE. And he's in main evented. Like, there's nothing left for him to do there. He was going to get pushed down the card. He knew that, and he said that, and now, what more can he do to build that Chris Jericho legacy, but build a whole nother fucking company? Could MJF go work for Freddie Prinze Jr.'s upstart wrestling promotion? I had talked about this last week in the MJF clip, where MJF was in an interview with Brandon Walker from Wrestling Barstool Sports. And Brandon Walker had said,
so really, we're just talking probably two bidders.
And MJF's like, whoa.
I mean,
no.
AEW, maybe another wrestling company.
Well, who's to say that there can't be a financial backer who wants to start a wrestling promotion that's willing to pay me an absurd amount of money in the United States of America? Listen, I'm very good friends with Freddie Prinze Jr. No, I'm being completely transparent. I'm very good friends with Freddie Prinze Jr. Mm-hmm. He's starting a wrestling company. Who's to say that he doesn't shell up enough money for MJF? Who knows? Who knows who his financial backers are?
That would be quite the summer catch.
I'm going to go to whoever pays me the most money. I'll go work for your mom in the backyard if you want to. He didn't say that part, but basically, right? As long as you're getting paid the most money. He doesn't care. He's not a mark for, the main event WrestleMania. I'm sure he does deep down. But you know what I mean? He wants to make the most money. So I talked about this last week as like, that was an interesting comment because, Freddie Prinze Jr. is starting a wrestling company. But now the plot thickens just a little bit more as Freddie Prinze Jr. was talking on his podcast, Wrestling with Freddie, a little bit more about MJF. Check out this clip.
Side quest.
All right.
Are you ready for a funny story?
Absolutely, always.
On season 1 of this show, we had the wonderful MJF, Maxwell Jacob Friedman, on the show as a guest, and he shit all over me. When the show was over, he and I became buds. And he came out to Los Angeles a couple times, and we've had some private dinners, and I've talked to him about some of my ideas, and he's psychotically helpful, and his creativity is just next friggin' level. And it's also just a different generation. We have I think it's a 20-year age difference, and hanging out with young people always makes me feel, inspired and hungry to chase my dreams the way I did in my 20s, the way this son of a gun is doing it every week. And Friday night, we went out to dinner. We always go to a sushi place, right? Because there's great sushi in Los Angeles. And there's these two, I'm going to call them ladies. Okay.
Okay.
They were very drunk. They were sitting next to us. And if you've seen Maxwell lately, he's in good shape. Okay. Like really good shape. His arms are friggin' huge and mine are not. And we're sitting next to these two drunk chicks and they're in love with him. And probably partially in love with me, but I mean, really in love with him. And
but they didn't recognize him as a wrestler, did they? Like they knew who he was?
No, they were just drunk, divorced, and looking for a young guy to have sex with.
All right.
And she's like, "Oh my God, your arms, da da da. Oh, they're so butt the whole time, right?" And he's like, "Oh, thanks, yeah, thanks," doing his thing. We're just trying to eat a meal and have a freaking conversation. And maybe 45 minutes before they leave, every 5 minutes, they're just interrupting our conversation. "Oh, what are you doing later?" And he legit just looks over, he goes, "Nothing with you." And they both go, they both go, well, one was more obnoxious than the other. The bolder one of the two, or the drunker one of the two goes, "Oh, well, it's not like I was trying to hit on you." And Max goes, "Yeah, all right." And so we keep eating our dinner. And before we go,
you're way past hitting on me.
The drunker one goes, "Well, the least you guys could do is buy us dinner." And Max goes, "I could buy everyone in this restaurant dinner, and I think I will. I just won't be buying yours." And they were like, they go, "Oh my God, blah, 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 blah." Paid their check. And she was like, "I was only joking." And I'm dying, dude, because he's so in character for this. And then they leave, and he looks over to the other table, and he's like, "I'm sorry, they were just annoying us." And the other table was like, "No, they were annoying us too." And he goes, "But I'm not buying you dinner." They were like, "No, it's totally fine."
So as funny as that is to picture MJF cutting a promo on two drunk middle-aged bar whores just thirsting over his fucking arms and just going to town on him, telling him to fuck off. As funny of a clip as that sounds like that would be, let's dig a little bit deeper into this. Because Freddie Prinze Jr. had said that he was talking with MJF and they're close buddies now after that podcast interview they did, and that he talks with MJF about the business. That he gets pointers from MJF, advice from MJF. He runs things by MJF, he says. Sorry, my butt's hurt a little bit here. I gotta adjust. It's the end of the show. If you're watching the whole thing. So MJF is sitting down to a meeting. First of all, they don't live in the same fucking city. You know, Freddie Prinze Jr. is an LA guy. So unless it's just when MJF was in town for like a wrestling show or an interview, if he specifically went to go see Freddie Prinze Jr. for a dinner at a fancy spot, Freddie Prinze said too. This was like a spot, like a high-class sushi joint where they got chased out of by paparazzi for a while and they had to stay away from it for a while until it wasn't cool anymore, he said. And then they started going back. But this is a high-level fucking sushi place. Like, you know they're not just chit-chatting about the fucking weather. Freddie Prinze is a much older man than MJF. Freddie Prinze has kids. There's not to say that they don't have a lot in common, but like they're talking. He's already saying they're talking about business. It's not a town MJF lives in. They're out at a fancy restaurant in fucking LA. They're probably going to talk at least casually about, hey, what would it take to get you to come over and be my guy? You know what I mean? Be my fucking... Because Freddie already said he had Karrion Kross pegged as his top guy in his company that he was going to try to build around before he got scooped up. So we know he's at least got Karrion Kross money, which is not MJF money. Let's be real here. But it shows that Karrion Kross is a bigger star. You know, now, yeah, I guess he was doing some time on the indies and stuff, so he probably wouldn't be terrible to bring in. You know, he could... I expect Freddie's promotion to be an MLW level promotion, but what if? Because he's got friends in Hollywood, like lots of them, rich, super rich, filthy rich, stupid rich friends. And Freddie's already laid out his business plan for this, that he's already going to have like 3 years worth. He's going to have enough money that he actually went out and earned. Like he actually, like his accountant said, like, don't spend this on your savings. You know, like go out and work for it if you want to do it. Because Freddie basically he very rarely takes movies nowadays. He went out and took a bunch of gigs, acting gigs, voiceover gigs, production gigs, writing gigs to pay for his wrestling promotion for 3 years. So he's going to fund an upstart wrestling promotion. He's talked about having friends that are, you know, professional wrestling fans, that are celebrities, that may want to be a part of this, may want to invest in this. Who knows? And all it takes is a casual conversation amongst the crowd, the circles that Freddie Prinze Jr. is going to find himself in, for somebody to go, I'd be interested in kicking in on that, or I could help you with that, or we could do something. You know, this thing, like, he's going to try to shop this around for some sort of TV deal, streaming deal. Freddie Prinze ain't a fuckwit, all right? You know, like you've heard the story. Everybody talks about it. Everybody said it with Tony Khan. Oh, there's always somebody that's going to start a promotion and blah, blah, blah. Freddie Prinze is a mark. He's a celebrity. He's wealthy enough to fund it, at least for 3 years. It's not going to be like major arena level, like but he even talked about buying a building. He's not going to take it on tour, but he's going to actually buy a building so that he can set it up the way he wants. He said he already bought a whole fucking lighting kit from somebody because it was like on sale for something. Dude, the dude's legit. And if he can bring in enough money, if he can find a backer, if somebody sniffs this out and gets interested in this, wants to throw some money into it, I definitely would not rule out MJF taking that deal. Now, I highly lean towards him going to WWE. I almost guarantee it. But I don't think we should rule out of the conversation this Freddie Prinze Jr. thing. And even if it's not for MJF, maybe they don't have MJF money because he's going to be seeking well over $1 million at this point. They are still going to be a company that's going to be a fucking player, at least at the level of MLW. Like, they're going to be in the game, and they're going to be in the game for 3 years, and he's going to be going after top level talent. He's not going to be scooping up indie jobbers. Some of them, I'm sure, but you get what I'm saying. He's going to make a go of this. So I predict big things for this Freddie Prinze Jr. Federation, and it could just be MJF. That's it, y'all. That's all I got. Thank you for listening all the way to the end of the show. I appreciate you greatly. I give you big virtual hugs. I'm going to be upgrading here in a little bit. I just bought a new microphone, so I'm going to replace this bad boy. This thing's done me great for an upstart, but the type of microphone that it gives a lot of background noise. And even though you guys might not notice it when I like edit and I put my headphones on and stuff, it bugs the shit out of me. So I upgraded my microphone, so I think that's going to be included shortly. And I might even play around with how I do the layouts or the fucking lighting or the setup or the back. I don't know what I'm going to do yet, but I would expect changes over time as I continue to evolve this show It's because, you guys watch and then you guys listen, and I appreciate you so fucking much for that. I do have, if you're a regular podcast listener, I want to bug you to come hop on over and check out the YouTube show. Just because I got a lot of fun stuff on YouTube. And if you are here on YouTube already, in my video playlist, I have taken the Pocky One Chip Challenge this year, the one that turns your tongue blue. And I have a full video up on that. I also have it as a short if you just want to watch a minute of it. But the full thing's like 15 minutes, maybe 12 minutes. And it's just great. I die from this fucking chip. And it's a no good chip. It's a goddamn no good chip. But I encourage you to watch me try it. I like doing that kind of stuff for content. I like providing good, solid extra content for you guys. So cheap plug for that. The reactions, go check out the reactions. I got fun stuff over there always. And I always, make myself laugh when I edit those. So maybe I'm just a fucking mark for myself, but I think they're funny. So go check those out. Also got the book out, The Gathering, A Bold Journey into the Belly of the Juggalo Underworld. Also right here on the channel, you can find the very first chapter of that. The full chapter of the audiobook is available on YouTube to just listen to see if it's your kind of thing, because I think you'll find that funny as well. Finally, the crypto, the pro wrestling inspired NFTs, the championship belts, Cryptomania NFTs, merging the greatest pro wrestling championship belts with the top cryptocurrencies out in the crypto market. These are NFTs. Finally, please follow, subscribe, follow on TikTok, Facebook, Twitter, and here on YouTube. If you're watching, hit the subscribe button. I would greatly appreciate it. I want to grow everything. I want to keep going. I appreciate the growth. I'm seeing growth. It's growth. I see growth too. I'm seeing growth. It's motivating me to keep doing stuff, doing extra stuff like that Pocky One Chip Challenge, and just driving harder, upgrading my mic. Like, I'm in it for the long haul. So I'm going to keep grinding, keep growing, and I hope you guys come along for the ride with me. I promise I will keep bringing my best and continue to grow each and every week right here on the Pro Wrestling Podcast.
I hate juggalos. I fucking hate them. I say all this with a grain of salt because for a good part of my own life, I proudly identified as a juggalo. You should come to the gathering with me. Nah, man. I'm not into all that whoop-whoop shit anymore. I'll pay for your ticket. I got fired today. Get the fuck out! Still got room for me? Spike, slow the fuck down! Cops!
Fuck your sleep. Fuck your sleep. Fuck your sleep.
The savages started closing in with their tiki torches and war paint. Shit. Run! You guys got a dead body here already? Even the aliens were throwing shade. It was pure panic and intense horror. There was a guy I saw got chopped in half. I had nothing left to go back to. You alive? Yep. The Gathering. A bold journey into the belly of the Juggalo underworld.